A very warm welcome to all of you on this session of our Fair AI's Thought Leaders Speak series. We have with us today Dr. Luc Julia. He is the Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer at the Samsung Strategy and Innovation Center, and also the co-creator of the pioneering voice assistant app SIRI. And we will talk with him about his views on artificial intelligence, on responsible AI and fairness issues around AI in particular, and also what he expects from the AI space going forward. Welcome to the show, Dr. Luc.
Thank you very much.
So first of all, let us start with your journey in the technology space. How did that evolve?
It's a long journey. I mean, I did basically 10 years of research first, in the domains of human-computer interaction and connected objects that we call now IoT. So it was the first 10 years. And then I did 10 years of startups in the Silicon Valley, because I'm French, as you can tell by my accent, but I live in the Silicon Valley for the past 27 years. So I did 10 years of startups, 5 startups. And after that, I decided to join the large companies. And so I went to HP, Apple, and now Samsung.
I see. So you mentioned that you started with human capital. So let me come to the question of people. When it comes to new technologies like AI and automation, these sort of concepts are often misunderstood by people today. So can you tell us why that is so? And in this perspective, would you actually say that the entire AI versus humans debate that we often hear about is actually a human versus human debate in a sense? What are your views on this?
So, I mean, I think it's very clear that AI is not, what people have in their mind today, because, I mean, when we talk in the media, about AI, we talk about, science fiction, basically. So we talk about Hollywood. So we talk about, wishful thinking. So this is what people, want to fear or want to love, but the reality is that AI, I mean, it's a set of tools. So that's why, I want to call that, AIs. So, and those tools, by definition, they are being used by humans. So it means that this is us, humans, who have, the control of those tools. So it means that when we are talking about, AI versus AI, I mean, it's really human versus human. So it's whatever, we make the use of those tools. So for instance, I mean, I often, compare AI with a hammer, because at the end of the day, I mean, we have, the control of it, and we can use it both ways. So we can use it to just, drive the nail, which is it meant for. It's a very powerful tool for that. It does the job very well. Or we can use it to hit, the head of the neighbor. And that's not what it's meant for, but it's possible. And, that's bad. So, so this is the way we learn how to use the tool. And this is the way we decide how to use the tool. We have the control of the hammer. So that's what it is. And that's only what it is.
In fact, in a sense, if I may put it, somewhere the fear of the unknown is actually a fear of ourselves, if I put it in a very, cryptic manner. But then talking about humans and people, would it imply that as human ingenuity and human improvisation in general evolves, and that translates into the AI techniques? And if so, then does it imply that humans will always be one step ahead of AI developments, because ultimately the AI intelligence is a derivative of human intelligence, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there is no way with the current techniques, which are, mathematics, basically. I mean, there are two big, parts of the current AI. There is the AI that was working well in the 60s, 80s, 90s. That is the logical AI, based on logic. So this is the expert systems. This is the rules, and things like that. So this is what it used to be, for 30 years. And then, in the year 2000 or so, with the prevalence of data and big data and internet, basically, I mean, came the statistical AI, right? The one that is purely based on a lot of data and that is being used, you know, with all this data that is collected, good or bad. This is another story, but this is what the two AIs are. So it's based on mathematics. So it means that we have the control of the algorithms and we have the control of the data. And if you think about the logical AI, we set the rules. So this AI cannot work if we don't set the rules. So it means that we have to be before, you know, to set the rules. And then there is the other AI that is the statistical AI, the one that we choose the data. So by definition, the data is historical data. It means that it's something that already exists, right? So both ways, we need to be before. So we always have, you know, the prevalence on those things. So, but it means also that we can make some random decisions. So we can decide that some of those rules, they are going to be random. And so we don't know exactly what is going to happen, but this is still our choice. This is still us deciding to put some random, you know, in those algorithms. So bottom line, the human intelligence is something that is, I like to describe it as, in a mathematical way as well, as a line, a continuous line, you know, over all the domains that exist in the world. But it's not only a continuous line, but it's also an infinite line. So it means that, you know, whatever is going to be new that we're going to invent, if we decide to invent something between the two of us today, right now, right? So we invent something, we can talk about it right away, right? AI is not the same thing. AI, if you want to, you know, draw it now on the same line that I was doing there, it's going to be a bunch of, you know, discrete lines with that you will need to do an infinite number of discrete lines to, you know, be like us, means, you know, continuous and infinite. And so you can do a lot of them. So this is what AI is doing. AI is going in more and more domains. So it's good. But an infinite number of domains is way too much, right? And in addition to that, the thing that we just invented, you know, a few seconds ago, I mean, AI is nowhere there because AI doesn't know anything because we didn't set the rules yet. We don't have the data yet, okay? So we are always ahead of AI because we set the rules and we create the data.
In fact, where you said that ultimately we are the force behind what is being developed, that actually takes me to the angle of how responsibly we are managing that. But before we move to the issues around responsibility and fairness, let me just come to your recent book that was published. And if you could share some very key insights that you shared in that book, that there is no such thing as artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing again is that I'm saying, I mean, so don't believe what you are told, basically, you know, in terms of those magical AI. There is nothing magic about it, okay? So just study it a little bit. Have your critical sense, that's fine. I mean, that's totally fine. Be critical about it, look at it, understand it as much as you can. I'm not asking you to have a PhD in AI. This is not what I'm asking, but I'm just asking, you know, understand what it is. Like you understood, you know, how to use a hammer. I mean, understand how to use AI and how it is, you know, being used. And then, you know, compare with the human brain, for instance, you know, and find out that it has nothing to do with the human brain. I mean, it's coming out of the human brain, but it has nothing to do. When you look, you know, at the machine that is going to recognize images, right? So it's going to recognize images very well, but with a lot of data, right? Plenty of data. And compare with us, humans, you know, when we have to recognize something, we just need a few examples, right? Why? Because we just don't work the same way. I mean, the human brain is totally different from the computer brain, right? So that's an evidence that we have to face. And when we look at that very simply, we understand. Same thing, you know, look at when you do this thing, you know, recognizing an image yourself, you do that with a brain that is about, you know, 20 watts. This is what we develop, you know, in terms of energy. Now look at the machines that we are putting together to recognize those images, right? I mean, it's going to be hundreds of watts just to do the recognition of the images, when, you know, your brain is going to use 20 watts to do a lot of things, to do everything, this continuous intelligence that I was talking about, right? So when you see those evidence, you just realize that, you know, those techniques, even if they are very good, don't give up on AI. There are some very, very good things to do. Don't give up on them, but just realize that it's not human intelligence. It's just something different. So we shouldn't have called that intelligence. This is the main mistake that, you know, our friends, you know, back in 1956, when they decided to call that artificial intelligence, it was a mistake because it has nothing to do with intelligence. But that's fine. So, but we understand that. So let's, you know, look at that, and then look, you know, have a critical look at it. And when it doesn't make sense, don't use it, you know, because sometimes you are going to spend a lot of energy doing something that, you know, doesn't do much. So maybe you shouldn't do it because, I mean, you have to protect our planet somewhere, right? So this is something that we have to think about. And at the end of the day, I mean, when you think about it, the conclusion of the book or the thing that I'm talking about, you know, all the time is education. I mean, we have to educate ourselves. Like we have to educate ourselves about, you know, the power of the hammer. I mean, we have to educate ourselves about the power of those artificial intelligence and about the potential risks. I'm not saying that there is no risk. As I said before, you know, with the hammer, there is the risk that you hit, you know, the head of the neighbor. And it's a risk because you were not educated how to use it, or you wanted to use it like that because you are a bad person. And if you are a bad person, you know, you are going to be to go in jail because you did that, because there is a regulation, because collectively we decided that it was wrong. And the same way, you know, for AI, because of the education that we are going to have around AI, we are going to collectively set a set of rules that are going to be, you know, how to use this AI and why to use this AI, you know. So this is what I believe. Education is key for that, to, you know, decide by yourself and to use it the correct way.
In fact, a sense that I get, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just probably adding on that that you just mentioned that, I mean, ultimately there are 7 billion people on the planet, and there are 7 billion ways of thinking that they do. I mean, everyone is different, wired in their own way, right? So it's 7 billion. But probably there is sometimes an element, and here maybe your views, if it's a right inference or not, that there's often humans become susceptible to the herd mentality, that when we don't understand something fully, and probably this is one reason why a lot of businesses have started implementing solutions around new technology and ultimately becoming, you know, which are me too offerings that I say that, you know, they're all a carbon copy of each other, but they don't really gel with the actual need the person on the other side has. But, you know, everyone is interpreting it in one way. No, but everyone thinks that I don't want to miss the bus. They want to be part of the herd, and somewhere that probably adds to the confusion that a lot of people who are affected by those practices, say in that company or whatever, then they start having those issues. Maybe is that a right inference? What is
I mean, it's one of the things. When you don't understand something, I mean, you tend to rely on the guy next door, you know, that maybe does understand it, right? And so it creates this herd, you know, process that you are talking about. So yes, I mean, it happens. That's why, you know, I also believe that regulation is very important, because for me, hopefully, you know, regulation is coming from people that are educated about the subject, and they are putting together the regulation out there. And now regulation is going to affect people. So it means that the people are going to see, oh, there is a law about it. There is a, you know, why there is a law. I need to look at it. I need to understand why. And then, you know, regulation is a way to educate people as well on some of those issues that are potentially, you know, coming with the technologies in this matter. So yes, I mean, my goal is to educate people, you know, in order for them not to have this herd, you know, mentality that where they are going to just do whatever the guy, the other guys around us are doing without understanding why. I want people to understand why. And I want them to, confront the reality, confront, this thing, and, talk about it.
Dr. Luc, maybe moving to the issues around responsible use of new technologies, how do you view the entire discourse on fairness and responsibility when it comes to developing new AI solutions? Where do you feel that current developers might be falling short on? And if so, then how can those shortcomings be addressed?
Yeah. It's a very complicated question because, AI is very popular right now, right? So as I said earlier, you can apply it in many domains. And most of the time, those domains, they are going to need it in the sense that, it's going to be a very powerful tool to help us to accomplish whatever task, we are going to apply it to. So AI is very powerful and very easy. I'm going to put some quotes there. Very easy to use because you just have to apply a bunch of algorithms, on a bunch of data. So this is the current trend, what we call machine learning and deep learning is, a set of algorithms that are very powerful to crunch some data, create models, and do something. So there is two main issues that I see. There are many others, but two main issues that I see there. First of all is the choice of the data. So this is the very first issue. And we saw plenty of examples, in the past 10, 15 years, that we are doing this kind of AI again. So this is biased data. So what does that mean? It means that, the data, the historical data is not perfect. Because, we may be at the time, of society didn't treat the black people, the right way, or the woman, or whatever. And we saw, for instance, last December, a large company editing a credit card, and it was an algorithm that automatically, was assigning the credit to the person. And if the person was a woman or if the person was a man, basically, it was half for the woman, right? Just because historically, the database was saying, that women had less money, than men. And so, of course, that's wrong, because, they were earning the same kind of money, they were having the same situation. It was wrong, but historically, this is what the algorithm, said, because it was biased data. So now, you can have people that are going to correct that. But when you correct that, you bring your own bias, right? So there is a balance there that is very, very complicated. So we need to be very careful, and this is something that we need to watch. And this is why also educated people, are going to watch, because they're going to say, okay, look, this algorithm there, it's not fair. There is something wrong, because it was based on biased data. So this is the first issue that we really, really have to look at. The other one is a little bit more difficult to grasp, because things are so easy that, we just throw those data to those computers that are going to be there, in data centers. They are going to be, somewhere far from where we are, right? So we send those data, the data centers, are crunching the data, and the models, come back and we use them and we're happy. But we don't realize that actually, this journey of the data between where we are and this centralized location where it's going to be crunched by, thousands of machines, it's taking a lot of energy. So, it's less than efficient, I would say, So because it's too easy, we have tendency, to just, throw this thing there and just look, at what is going to come back without realizing the amount of energy that is being used and that is basically being wasted. When you see that 50, 60% of the energy of the data center is used just to cool the data center, just because, you have those machines that are side by side, thousands of machines, just because they are there without even, doing the calculation, without even storing the data. You use already 50, 60% of the energy of the data center just for that. So that's a waste. We need to find a way to use maybe less data. We need to find a way to maybe do something that is more localized instead of being, centralized. So this is the kind of thing that we need to think about before sending a job, like we say, to a computer and to a data center. Maybe we need to think about this job. Does it really, deserve to mobilize that much energy, to do it? So this is something also that is important for me. So those two pieces are very, very important, and this is something that can lead actually to the end of AI at the end.
In fact, your examples reminded me of an incident that you find that, for example, a lot of companies today need to do sustainability reporting as part of their financial disclosures, right? And especially for the IT sector companies, the energy management with respect to the data centers has become a standard reporting for all IT companies, because, I mean, like you said, that is a huge guzzler of energy. And I remember this incident where this IT company senior person I was chatting with, they were mentioning that, so there's a problem they face on reporting also, because there are countries, for example, like India and China, where majority of the electricity comes from coal, thermal, thermal power electricity, which is having more emissions as compared to many other countries. Say in France, for instance, it is mostly nuclear, or a lot of countries have natural gas based. And so where the emissions effect is very different. So the gentleman was actually sharing that while they have data centers in Asia, in Europe, etc., and they are managing, they have put a certain benchmark that, we need to maintain emissions in this, within this range. But then because the actual emissions, it also depends on the power, the source of power, then, the IT companies are having to do a lot of energy calculations, something that is actually out of their domain. And they were just sharing that internally, I mean, on paper, it sounds like, why should it be a big deal? But when you step back inside the company, and there's a lot of discussions and challenges people face, that how do we calculate this? How do we bring parity on this? And a lot of sweat behind it. But that's just an incident I just remember the sharing. But on data, very quickly, if I can take your view that, if I'm, historical bias is one aspect, but then now, even as we process the data, we might be adding elements of bias right now as we speak. So eventually cleansing that data, is that, being mindful of issues and education, will that be the main solution, that then over a period of time, we are able to cleanse that data entirely? Or, what's your view on?
Yeah, then, we can bring the notion of ethics, right? This is what it is. So, at the end of the day, when you are going to make some decisions about the algorithms or about the data that you are choosing or that you are cleaning, you are making your own decision. So it can be at your own level, personal level. It could be the ethics, at the company level. It can be the ethics at the country level. It can be the ethics at the world level. So that's why, regulation is going to come, into place there. So regulation is going to be, most likely at the world level or at the country level, but it can be very well also at the company level. So in the company, they are going to tell you, okay, so if you find such and such, you just shouldn't do it. And yourself, you are going to have your own ethics, and you are going to say, okay, here, I'm cleaning this data. I'm adding, a little bit more weight, on this thing because I believe that it was wrong, in the historical data. So, there you are basically putting your own bias. We know that we have to, but you are doing so, ethically with your own ethics. Everybody has one, it can be very low or it can be high, but.
So in fact, on responsible aspects of technology, let's take a step towards the social cost of automation, because transition to new technologies has a human social cost, especially in large population countries. So what are your views on the effect of automation on human labor displacement? How can that be better managed?
I mean, obviously there is a big impact. I mean, but it's not new. I mean, you know, it's new for artificial. It's new for artificial intelligence because I mean, artificial intelligence is pretty new. I mean, even though you know it's from the 60s, 50s. But anyway, but when you look at history, I mean, there were plenty of examples where technology did displace some tasks. I'm going to say tasks and not jobs. Because, I mean, inside a job, you have many tasks. And so it's very rare, actually, that all the tasks in a job are being replaced by the technology. Because of what we said earlier, you know, that the tasks, the domains are so large that it's very complicated to have one machine that is going to do exactly, you know, the right thing for a lot of different domains. So it means that when you look, you know, back in even the 18th century, you know, there were some machines that did replace humans, you know. It was very painful for those humans. I mean, because those tasks were replaced. But when you look at it historically, maybe, you know, it takes a generation, but you see that those machines, when they did replace those jobs or those tasks, I mean, they created new tasks. And the new tasks that are being created, that are going to be part of the new jobs, basically, I mean, they are usually better in terms of self-esteem for the workers. So, and we see that, you know, over and over, you know, in the history. And it's not surprising, actually, because, I mean, if we create those tools, is to replace the things that is, you know, tiring, that is repetitive, that can be automated, because the automation by definition is not very good for us, because I mean we do that, you know, mechanically, and it's not a good thing for our brain. Basically, we don't use the brain for that. And then, you know, the tasks that are being asked, that are being added because we add those robots, we add those machines. Now, you know, we need to fix those machines. We need to feed those machines. We need to, you know, there are some new jobs that are actually, new tasks that are actually very much more interesting, where we need to learn how, you know, the process is working, and where we are going to feel, you know, more empowered actually, because, you know, we have the control of this machine. And so, again, there are plenty of examples. And AI is just another tool that, you know, came up recently, and that is going to come more and more tasks that we want to do. And it's going to do two things. So it's going to, I believe, you know, make our jobs better in sense of, you know, interest. And it's going also to free up some time. And that's okay. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we are social animals. And I think that it's going to be much more interesting to have a little bit more time for ourselves. I mean, hopefully, you know, I'm an optimistic, right? So it means that, optimistic person. So it means that I believe that the time that we are going to free up, we are going to use it for things that are good for ourselves. We are going to read more about, you know, things that we are going to learn about, and we are going to spend more time with family, friends, and, you know, to have some social interaction with the rest of the people. So this is what I'm hoping. Of course, it's not always like that, but that this is what I believe. So bottom line, I mean, to answer the question about the jobs and the replacement of jobs, of course there is, and this is painful sometimes, but I believe that over time, the jobs are actually evolving to something that is better for the people.
In fact, maybe, you know, I'm adding one more take on this, that workflow planning, that, you know, because, I mean, the point that you said, that certain job tasks will change, new tasks will emerge, and for a human resource, and not always that a company's human resource will have that expertise to do so, but that smart workflow planning in a way that brings out that element of self-esteem factor, where that also creates a financial incentive to retrain that person, because you can't, I mean, not every 45-year-old guy who has a responsibility towards families can meet that. So maybe that in itself is a sector emerging within the human resource space to counter the technological innovations. So
let me add something there. Again, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing that I was saying over and over. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about education. I mean, first of all, we need to educate ourselves about our own job, right? So what is it that is, you know, in my job that might be automated, right? And should I prepare myself to the next step. So should I educate myself about what could happen? And then, you know, when this thing happened, I mean, should I, you know, jump on the train on this new thing, whatever the new thing is? And this is called education, you know, and this is very, very important. I need to be curious. I mean, I'm a human. This is the difference, you know, with the machine. I can learn new stuff, you know, and I can, you know, be, I mean, in front of new situations where I'm going to be creative. This is not what the robot can do.
And probably thanks to coronavirus pandemic this year, I think many companies have actually fallen a step behind in this endeavor, because unfortunately now, because of especially those operating in large population emerging markets, I mean, for example, I live in a city called Mumbai, and Mumbai's population is 4 times that of Denmark, you know. And so many people who have lost their jobs in all these countries. Now companies are looking towards cost optimization. Governments are looking at give them any job, it matters, doesn't matter. So the entire thought process is very different than what it should be. And probably, I think, thanks to coronavirus, we actually fell behind a step. But hopefully next year we are able to catch up. Dr. Luc, can you share some examples of companies or organizations where you have seen, you know, they are developing AI solutions in a fair, responsible, ethical manner?
I mean, you know, I cannot really give examples of companies or to single out a company and to say, you know, they are doing great or they are doing bad. I mean, unfortunately, I think that I have more examples, you know, of using the technology in a bad way than in a good way. So the first examples that come in mind, you know, are more, you know, bad than good. And I don't want to talk about that. But thinking about good, I mean, most likely, I mean, you can find a lot of examples of companies that are going to use the technologies for, at the end, you know, the good of their workers, the good of the people that are going to get their product or whatever service they are going to provide. So again, I'm sorry I don't have, you know, an actual example there, but I mean, it's obvious that, you know, it can be used like that.
Dr. Luc, as a concluding question, maybe your opinion on how you see the entire AI and machine learning space evolving over the next decade or so?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I mean, we can apply AI on many domains. So there are domains that are very interesting for us, and I think that this is where you will find those fair and ethics companies that you are talking about. I mean, first of all, you know, the medical domain is just incredible. I mean, it's incredible. Why? Because, of course, we can already have, you know, a lot of AI helping the radiologists, you know, to find cancer, you know, with imagery processing. So there is already a lot of things there. In addition to that, you know, more and more now we are discovering the power of the DNA, right? And DNA is a statistical field. And as I said before, you know, I mean, AI is very good at statistics, right? So we are going most likely to have more and more statistical analysis of this DNA that is going to help, you know, to prevent some illness and diseases. So this is something that is going to be very interesting. So the medical field, the wellness field is going to be helped a lot by AI. Another one that is obvious that we talk about a lot, you know, for years now is transportation. I mean, I don't believe that we will have full autonomous cars anytime soon. I mean, what we call level 5 in autonomy will never happen, I think, with the technology that we have. But level 4 of technology will happen. Today, when we look about, I mean, around this autonomous field, you think Tesla, right? You think Tesla, they have this autonomous cars. It's not autonomous yet. I mean, there are something like level 2, level maybe 2.5, right? So autonomy level 4 will be very, very interesting because it's going to prevent a lot of accidents. I mean, there are millions of deaths, you know, on the road in the States today, right? And most of them, thanks to the technology, they can be prevented. I'm not saying all of them. That's why I'm saying, you know, that the ultimate thing that will be, you know, perfect will never exist. but we will prevent, maybe 90% of the accidents thanks to this technology, thanks to the autonomous driving, right? So level 4 again. So that will be very interesting. And in addition to that, it brings, the possibility for people that don't have the ability to move around. It gives, a way to potentially move. I mean, with aging population, it's going to be more and more complicated, for people to move around, and those kind of technology can be interesting. So medicine, transportation, and the last thing that I personally like very much is the everyday life. So it means that the everyday objects that are around us, they are going to become, quote unquote, more and more intelligent. So it means that they are going basically to adapt to your needs and to deliver services in the right way more and more. So it means that you are going to receive those services in a very, friendly way without even thinking about it. So that's, I think it's a good domain also for people that are creating objects and that are creating, a scenario that are going to be your everyday lives. So I think that on those 3 domains is going to be a lot of very interesting advances in the next few years. But as I said before, if you look at any domain, you can create new tools. A tool, by definition, is something that is going to do the job better than what you are doing yourself, right? I mean, the hammer is being much better than your fist to drive a nail, right? So that's everything is going to be impacted, but some domains for me are more interesting because it's going to impact even more human lives.
I like the point that you said about medicine and about impacting human life, because it's heartening to see that, a lot of innovations, for example, a lot of mobile apps, for instance, originally had come out aimed at consumerism, basically to boost consumer spending. And every app was largely a carbon copy of each other, and none of them were making profit. And today you have a lot of, for example, in AI, machine learning, blockchain, for instance, you have a lot of applications that are focusing on social good, creating social impact at scale. And I can vouch that because I was recently working on a research project where we were researching a lot of use cases on all these, that how are applications creating social impact and scale. And medicine and healthcare was one of the most, themes that was coming out. And it was quite heartening to see that so much development is happening. And my only, hope would be that ultimately these solutions are able to create that business case so that they can scale up. So that 5 years later, they go from here to here, not, they don't end up on the drawing board because, they could not create that business case. But let's see, interesting times ahead. Dr. Luc, many thanks. We'll conclude here, and many thanks for taking the time out for our session and sharing all the useful insights that you did. We wish you all the very best in all your endeavors. Have a good weekend. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.